Stop scrolling. Ethiopia is upgrading its military in ways most people did not see coming, and the shift is already changing how the Horn of Africa thinks about power. This is not a story about loud headlines. It is a story about capability, momentum, and a country that keeps proving it can adapt. In the next few minutes, I will break down what Ethiopia has changed, why it matters, what the outside world sometimes misunderstands, and why the next chapter could surprise a lot of outsiders. Ethiopia's advantage starts with geography. The country sits at the heart of the Horn of Africa, close to the Red Sea corridor, surrounded by complex borders and shaped by highlands, deserts, and dense cities. That terrain does not allow a one-dimensional force. It demands soldiers who can move, commanders who can improvise, and an institution that can operate across very different environments. Now add a second ingredient: experience. Ethiopia has decades of operational exposure in a region where security problems rarely stay local. And regardless of where you stand politically, one thing is clear in public data. Ethiopia has repeatedly demonstrated the ability to sustain deployments, including abroad. The United Nations Peacekeeping Country Ranking Report dated January 31st, 2025, listed Ethiopia as the 11th largest contributor at that time, with 1,533 uniformed personnel serving in UN operations. Because projecting forces outside your borders is not a social media flex. It is fuel, food, medical support, rotations, communications, and leadership under pressure. It is the difference between a force that looks big and a force that can actually move. So what is the transformation that people are calling insane? It starts in the air. Across the world, militaries are shifting toward a new reality where drones, surveillance, and precision strike systems can reshape the battlefield, even for countries that do not have unlimited budgets. In Ethiopia's case, outside reporting began to spotlight this in 2021. Reuters reported that sources familiar with the issue said Ethiopia had requested purchases of Turkey's Bayraktar TB2 drones, and that the agreements could include training and spare part guarantees. And the attention was not random. Reuters also reported that Turkish defense exports to Ethiopia surged to almost $95 million in the first 11 months of 2021, up from virtually nothing the year before, based on exporters' data. That kind of jump is what makes analysts lean forward and say, okay, something is changing here. Researchers have since pointed to Ethiopia as part of a wider expansion of drone warfare on the African continent. The European Council on Foreign Relations described the growing role of armed drones in Ethiopia's conflict environment and discussed how systems like the TB2 can change operational choices and outcomes. Here's why drones are a big deal in plain language. They help you see farther, watch longer, and react faster. They can cover large areas with fewer pilots than fast jets, and they can do it at a lower operating cost. In a region where minutes can matter more than miles, that is a power multiplier. Now, we also have to be honest and responsible. Credible reporting has raised serious concerns about civilian harm from drone strikes in multiple African conflicts, including Ethiopia. A 2025 report covered by The Guardian described significant civilian deaths linked to drone strikes in Ethiopia between 2021 and 2024. Transformation is not automatically a feel-good story. Technology can protect, and it can also harm depending on decisions and oversight. Saying that out loud does not weaken Ethiopia's story. It makes the conversation real, and it reminds everyone that modern capability comes with modern responsibility. Alongside unmanned systems, Ethiopia has retained elements of conventional air power that many countries in the region do not have. Open-source aircraft inventories list Ethiopia as an operator of Sukhoi Su-27 fighters, a platform designed for air superiority and long-range operations. And those same inventories list strike, transport, and helicopter fleets that support national reach. Exact numbers vary across public sources, but the capability mix is the point. Ethiopia is building options. Options are what give a military flexibility, and flexibility is what wins hard problems. Air power is the flashy part, but the deeper transformation is what happens behind the scenes, because real power is sustained power. That is where Ethiopia's industrial and maintenance push matters. Ethiopia has long maintained defense industrial organizations, and public sources describe domestic facilities focused on ammunition and equipment support. One example is the Hamako Ammunition Engineering Complex, publicly described as producing a wide range of ammunition for the Ethiopian National Defense Force. In March 2025, Ethiopia's state news agency reported Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed saying the country had secured contracts worth over $30 million from ammunition exports connected to the complex. And this is not a small detail. Wars and crises do not wait for shipments. If your ammo stock or spare parts depend on global politics, sanctions, or shipping disruptions, your readiness can collapse overnight. A country that can produce and maintain more of what it needs inside its own borders becomes harder to pressure, harder to isolate, and harder to surprise. Training and institutions are part of this story too. The United Nations Development Program highlights Ethiopia's role in peace support training and emphasizes Ethiopia's long-standing contribution to peacekeeping missions. That kind of institutional work does not look exciting on camera, but it is one of the reasons Ethiopia can generate forces for complex missions without starting from zero every time. When you train for peace support, you train communications, discipline, coordination with partners, and the ability to operate professionally under international scrutiny. Those habits transfer back home, and they raise the ceiling of what a force can do. Let's talk about money, because viewers always ask, how much is Ethiopia spending? The cleanest publicly comparable view is the World Bank indicator for military expenditure as a share of GDP, which draws on SIPRI's military expenditure database. This does not tell you every procurement detail, but it does tell you something important: how heavy the defense burden is relative to the economy and how that burden changes over time. It is a trend line that keeps the conversation grounded, because the countries that modernize sustainably are the ones that balance security with national development. Now, zoom back to regional influence, because this is where Ethiopia's military story stops being only about Ethiopia. Ethiopia has been a major actor in Somalia through AU missions and bilateral deployments. Reuters reported in June 2024 that Ethiopia had about 3,000 troops in Somalia under the African Union mission, plus thousands more under a bilateral agreement. And it described how those deployments became part of wider regional tensions. Whatever your views are, that footprint signals capacity. It means Ethiopia can operate beyond its borders, sustain units in challenging environments, and remain a serious security player in the Horn. Looking forward, African Union documentation on the mission expected to succeed ATMIS in Somalia included Ethiopia in the list of troop-contributing countries, with a proposed Ethiopian contingent of 2,500 troops. That is a signal that Ethiopia is not stepping away from the security architecture of the region. It is trying to shape it. So why would Ethiopia's transformation shock the world? Not because Ethiopia is trying to become a global superpower overnight. It will shock people because Ethiopia is showing a smarter model of modernization. It is focusing on what matters most right now: information advantage through drones and surveillance, credible air deterrence through manned platforms, and self-reliance through sustainment and domestic production. Put those together, and you get a military that can respond faster, stay in the field longer, and operate with more independence. Here is my opinion, clearly labeled as opinion. Ethiopia's most important upgrade is not a single drone or fighter jet. It is the shift toward systems thinking. The future belongs to militaries that connect intelligence, air power, ground maneuver, logistics, and industry into one coordinated machine. Ethiopia is moving in that direction, and that is why the trajectory matters more than any single headline. Now for the pride part, because yes, Ethiopia deserves credit where it is due. This is a country with deep history, a tradition of resilience, and a strategic location that forces it to stay sharp. Ethiopia has taken hard lessons and translated them into modernization choices that are visible in procurement interest, public reporting on defense trade, domestic production efforts, and continued contributions to regional missions. Now I want you in the comments, because this topic is bigger than one video. What do you think is the most impressive part of Ethiopia's military evolution? The drone and air power shift, the push for local production, or the ability to deploy forces beyond its borders? And here is a spicy one. Should Ethiopia keep investing heavily in air power, or should it also build a serious naval capability through partnerships and access agreements, even as a landlocked country? I know, a navy without an ocean sounds like a plot twist, but strategy is full of plot twists. Tell me your answer and your reason, and if you are Ethiopian, tell me what makes you most proud about your country's security strength. If you want more deep dives like this, subscribe and share this with someone who still thinks Ethiopia is only a history lesson. Ethiopia is history, and it is also a modern strategic player, and that combination is exactly what makes this transformation so powerful.